The first time I saw the impossible house, it wasn't on a map. It was in a photograph that hadn't been taken yet. The picture appeared inside an old leather camera case I bought from a dusty flea market on a rainy Sunday. I didn't even own a vintage camera. I only bought the case because the stitching looked beautiful, and it smelled like cedar wood instead of mold. Hidden beneath the faded lining was a single black and white photograph. It showed an isolated house standing on top of a cliff beside a lonely lighthouse. Standing on the porch was a man holding a lantern. What stopped me cold was the date handwritten on the back. It was exactly 1 week in the future. First I laughed. Someone had probably made it as a prank. But then I noticed something stranger. The man's face was blurry, almost erased, except for one detail. On his left wrist was the same silver watch my grandfather had given me before he died. The watch had a deep scratch near the clasp. The photograph showed that exact scratch. Curiosity won. For the next several days, I searched for the lighthouse in the photograph. Reverse image searches found nothing. Travel forums came up empty. Finally, buried inside an old maritime archive, I found a faded drawing that looked almost identical. The location wasn't on modern maps anymore because the coastline had collapsed decades ago. Officially, the lighthouse no longer existed. That only made me want to find it more. After hours of driving through forgotten coastal roads, I reached a narrow gravel path leading toward the sea. Beyond thick fog stood the abandoned lighthouse exactly as it appeared in the picture. The cliff was scarred by old landslides, yet somehow the lonely house remained standing nearby, untouched by time. The place was silent except for crashing waves below. I walked toward the front porch, expecting dust and broken windows. Instead, the front door slowly opened before I could knock. Inside stood an elderly woman wearing a gray sweater. She smiled as though she'd been expecting me. "You took longer than the others," she said. I froze. The others? She simply pointed toward a hallway filled with framed photographs. Every frame showed a different visitor standing exactly where I was standing now. Some were smiling. Some looked terrified. Every photograph had a future date written beneath it. The final frame at the end of the hallway was empty. The old woman noticed me staring. "That's yours," she whispered. I should have left right then. Instead, I asked the question that had been growing in my mind ever since finding the photograph. "Who keeps taking these pictures?" She looked toward the second floor. "No one who's still alive. Please arrive before sunset." Against every instinct, I returned to the cliff. This time the house was already waiting. Its windows glowed warmly despite the gathering storm. The elderly woman greeted me with relief. "You're just in time." "For what?" She handed me the lantern. "The keeper is retiring." Before I could ask another question, she led me upstairs. The mysterious photographer stood beside a window overlooking the sea. He slowly removed his hat. My heart nearly stopped. He had my face. Not an older resemblance. Not a relative. Exactly my face. He looked exhausted, as though he hadn't slept in years. "I've been waiting," he said quietly. "I don't understand." "You will." He placed the antique camera into my hands. "It's your turn." I backed away. "I'm leaving." "You've said that every time." "What do you mean every time?" Instead of answering, he opened a heavy wooden cabinet. Inside were hundreds of leather camera cases stacked from floor to ceiling. Each contained a single photograph. Each photograph showed someone arriving exactly 1 week after discovering it. "They all become keepers?" He shook his head. "No. What happens to them? They all try to escape. And they always succeed." Relief washed over me. "So I can leave?" "Yes," he replied. "You'll leave today." I frowned. "Then why are you giving me the camera?" "Because leaving is how it begins." He stepped aside and pointed toward the doorway. I didn't hesitate. I ran. I raced down the stairs, through the front door, across the cliff path, and back to my car without looking behind me. I never stopped driving until sunrise. For weeks, nothing happened. Life returned to normal. I convinced myself the entire experience had been some elaborate hallucination triggered by stress and coincidence. Then one evening I decided to clean my apartment. While emptying a storage closet, I found an old leather camera case. I didn't remember owning one. Inside was a black and white photograph. It showed a frightened young woman standing outside a lonely mountain cabin. The date written on the back was 1 week from today. A cold realization spread through me. The camera had never stayed inside the house. It had left with me. I wasn't escaping the cycle. I had become the beginning of it. Somewhere, another impossible house was already waiting. And without realizing it, I had just chosen its next visitor.